Hurricane Hermine continues towards the Florida Gulf Coast. That's the headline of this video update here on IPR's YouTube video update page. I'm Mike Nasa with the latest on Hurricane Hermine. When we take a look at the radar of the entire United States, or at least the lower 48, it's no secret where our hurricane is. Hermine sitting right here in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, coiled up. A very well-organized hurricane on radar. Remember about 12 hours or so ago when I showed you the satellite and the radar, it looked very flat. You can see the troughiness to the north of it, pulling it on off towards the northeast. It will be making landfall in the next several hours, and there is definitely a potential for very heavy rain, strong hurricane force winds, and a pretty nasty storm surge. So that's what we're dealing with right now with Hurricane Hermine. Now let's take a look at the latest stats on Hermine as of 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It was at 28.5 north, 85.0 west. Winds were 75 miles per hour, gusting to 90. They could be getting a little stronger even by the time you see this update. You could see those winds up to, say, 80, 85 miles per hour. It's moving north-northeast at 13, so it hasn't drastically increased its forward speed, but it's pretty straightforward to landfall in the next few hours in the area of the Big Bend of Florida. Pressure down to 988 millibars. You'll see that continue to fall with a strengthening hurricane as it comes ashore, and through time here expect it to remain over land, maybe leave the coastline somewhere in here, but then a major slowdown. You can see how this is tonight, this is tomorrow night, and then literally Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, Monday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. We have very little movement there at the end, and it could be interacting with a trough as a tropical storm, almost extra tropical, to where it almost becomes a cold core type of system, but it could be causing a lot of heavy surf, potential for heavy rain, and we really don't know what's going to happen in this area of the cone here. But we know in the short term we have a hurricane landfall along the Florida coastline in the next few hours. By the way, if and when this makes landfall as a hurricane in Florida, it is the first hurricane they have had since Wilma in October of 2005. 11 years. I can't tell you how rare that is for the state of Florida. They usually get them, every 3 years? They get like 2 out of 3 years, get a hurricane landfall in Florida. Very, very lucky lately. Not lucky tonight with Hurricane Hermine. I'm not going to show the watches and warnings. If you're in the hurricane warning area, you have to know about it already. In the Big Bend area of Florida, those hurricane winds, Tallahassee, you're going to get them inland. And you can see the wind field here. The tropical storm force winds spreading onshore everywhere from, say, south of Tampa Bay all the way over to Apalachicola and the Big Bend area here. The hurricane force winds are right around the eastern part of the center there, and those will be spreading onshore, and they will move inland a bit before the system weakens. So you'll have to deal with the potential, especially for trees falling. I remember Hurricane Katrina back in Florida in 2005 came in as a Cat 1, but the ground was so saturated, a lot of trees fell on cars. It was very deadly. We can't have that happen again. Can't have it happen again. Now, here's the visible satellite imagery as the sun goes down once it gets going there. There you can see an eye developing there. We have a hurricane, obviously, as the convection wraps around a little deeper there. It could strengthen, like I said, to 80, 85 miles per hour prior to landfall. Look at the fanning out on the northwest side, much better defined than it was earlier, and look at these clouds streaking here over the Florida coastline. That's an indication that this system is wrapping up. There's the eye of Hurricane Hermine, headed very close now to the Florida coastline, with a lot of impacts, especially on the eastern side of the circulation, with the heavy rainfall, the high surf, very high surf, surprisingly high, and gusty winds. Now, I did want to note the storm surge potential here with this storm. We're going to use this new graphic, the potential for storm surge flooding from the National Hurricane Center. When you get these oranges and reds in here, you're talking about the potential for as much as like 9 to 10 feet of storm surge. We're going to zoom into the areas most at risk right now. You can see water inundation all along the Florida coastline from areas north of Tampa Bay all the way over to the Big Bend. But if we zoom in on where it could really, really hit home, south of Tallahassee, some of these communities here, which they should name momentarily, look at here, we've got the coastline here. What do we got? Nuttall Rise and Scanlon, these little communities in here near Plum Orchard. all of these little bays and little rivers are very susceptible to water inundation. So if you are living near the coast and you have power and you're hunkering down and you're watching this update, please get to higher ground. Get out of there before the winds get too high to leave. This is your last chance. We've only got a couple of hours, and you do not want to see that very dangerous 2 in the morning water rise in the Big Bend, an area very susceptible to storm surge. Again, this is nothing to mess around with. This is a hurricane. It is a strengthening hurricane, and it is still over water for a couple more hours, so we're going to have to deal with it. You can see the eye wall there not looking all that great, ragged, but it is coiling up as it continues to move somewhere between, say, the areas of Perry and Panama City, Tallahassee, these coastal areas here. If you're in Cedar Key, if you're in St. Marks, if you're in Apalachicola, you're getting slammed right now with very high surf and very gusty winds, and the water rise will continue. Remember when Hurricane Dennis made landfall in Pensacola? That was a Cat 3, but it was very tiny and it was weakening. But all of the storm surge in the Big Bend area, we were shocked by how far away from the eye the storm surge had that impact. So even if the center comes ashore up here, you're going to be dealing with an onshore flow in areas of the Big Bend of Florida and the potential for high storm surge. We'll continue to watch Hurricane Hermine as it continues towards landfall, strengthening at this hour, those winds coming onshore. I'm Mike Naso. I'll be back with an update later on tonight.